and welcome to episode 187 of the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Darby Hallman.
And I'm Jeff Mayo.
Whoo boy, heading towards 200, no plans.
We got,
0.
what, 3 months at least?
Yeah, we probably still won't have a plan by then.
Yeah. we'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out. Well, I believe in us. And I also believe in us to put on a really good betting special for E3. You know why I believe in us? Because we already did. I already know that we did. And I've actually listened back through some of it because I just started listening to it just to see how the audio sounded. And then I just kept going because it was just fun. It's just a fun time with the pros. You can get that on the same Nerds at Large Gaming podcast feed that you may or may not be listening to right now. Or on youtube.com/nerds at large. We have Jacob and Hamill, the boys on. And I think Jeff did a very fantastic job with this. There was lots of fun discussions. It kind of helped. It definitely helped a lot with the E3 hype. And it's like, okay, there's a good many things here, even with the COVID and the online and the uncertainty and Sony being on, again, it's like, there's a lot to look forward to,
yes, with
E3. Not that all of it will come true, but as always. No. But I think
all your dreams will come true.
Every last dream will come true. So go check that out and look forward to our live reactions for E3 and all the other adjacent conferences, the ones that we can do, but at least discussions of either on the podcast or on a separate thing for pretty much all of them. And we're going to try to collaborate with Holden and Chad from Respawn Aim Fire to help with that stuff. So look forward to that. And then sometime in August, we should have the results for.
Yes. Or if not before that, because.
Or not all. Yeah, July.
Yeah.
July is the one after June. Whoops.
Because this stuff is only going through. It's primarily E3, but it's kind of encompasses. If something happens in June, that's not there. Because again, there's some Sony stuff in there, and that's not going to happen in E3. So we're, just doing all of June just for the sake of putting a timetable on it.
Hell yeah. So go check it out. But without further ado, Jeff, let's get started with our opening segment, the Nerds at Large Character Hall of Fame. What the hell is this, Jeff?
This is a Hall of Fame of characters that me and you really like. And the way we have it set up is kind of like a Smash Bros. Style thing.
Yes.
Where we kind of come up with movesets of a game that's like Smash Bros. Pretty much. And we make them and have fun with it, and we added at some point rivals in there. It made everyone rivals, and now at this point it's just whoever me and Darby both individually decide at the same time are officially rivals, and we try to come up with some dumb reason for that to be.
How weird it is. They're instantly rivals.
Yes. Let's see. I got the
So I can post. You can see on Twitter usually whenever we add new characters, I'll post the whole screen with all of them whenever I get it done, so you can go look at the full list. It's quite the list of characters.
Yeah, Soraka, Monokuma were the last ones, right? I want to make sure.
I believe so. Yes. Yeah. Soraka from League of Legends and Monokuma from Danganronpa were the last entries. But what will today's entries be? Jeff, who do you want to go first?
I'll go first. I think you went first last time.
All right.
Or maybe you didn't. I don't know. I can't remember.
Nah, who cares?
Oh, wait. No. Those weren't the last ones.
No, they weren't?
Because the last ones were the...
Oh, yeah, right.
Balthier.
Right.
Make sure we have them all on this list.
Balthier from Final Fantasy 12.
And Max from Life is Strange, because we had the thing with the bat.
You're right. You're totally right. Yep.
Well, Darby, it's time to add a character that you might say doesn't get as much love from the normal game community at large.
Mainstream media.
Maybe the mainstream media is more happy with this character. I don't know. It's a character that I have loved since childhood. Has a very troubled history. Games can be very hit or miss.
Yes.
And I have loved a lot of their games in the past. Looking back, they may not be good, but gosh darn it, do they have heart? And there's some good games mixed in there, of course. And when we talked about the first games we remember playing, this character's game is the one I remember. I think it was the first game I played.
Nice. Wow.
And that character is Sonic the Hedgehog.
I knew it from the moment you said hit or miss. I'm like, yep. I know where we're going.
Yeah, it's time for Sonic to be in here.
But yeah,
You know it's coming, probably.
That is very good. I was also thinking, have you put Banjo in here?
I haven't.
Okay, I mean it's fine in your own time. So yeah, it's like yeah. Anyway, this is Sonic's time.
Yes. I mean, Banjo.
The order we put in here does not mean like the order we care about these. We just like yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I've loved Sonic since I was a kid, and especially with I kind of thought about it. Part of the reason I decided to add Sonic in now is just kind of the talk of the sequel, and there was actually some plot leaks. It was like a synopsis, and I glanced over it. It was all obvious stuff. Ooh, Knuckles is in there. Ooh, Eggman seems to be tricking Knuckles. Spoilers, that was going to happen no matter what. So all that kind of stuff, and it just made me think, yeah, I've loved Sonic about my whole life, even though they've had a lot of bad games that I didn't care for.
But a lot of good games. People talk about, the bad games more than they're definitely.
Even some of them more questionable when I played when I was younger. Still have a lot of love and nostalgia for, like, Sonic Adventure 2 is one that I downloaded or bought from a Steam sale not too long ago. Have that downloaded to maybe play at some point. That could be a fun little stream.
Yeah, definitely. And Sonic, no doubt, obviously Mario was the genesis of everything here, whatever. And Sonic was inspired. And it was inspired by Mario, but like Sonic, no doubt, like it provided like the only real competitor to Mario back in the day, and for sure, Sonic has inspired other games that Mario wouldn't have.
Yeah,
like,
and as far as Sonic, he also has
style.
the comics to expand his character, which I've read some of, and they got some good stuff in there. And I think it just says something about Sonic that despite the hit or miss of the gaming catalog, he survived this long. He's someone that most people still know.
Even if they have not played a Sonic game in 20 years, they still kind of care about Sonic. I mean, like everyone, if you're attached to Sonic, you're attached to Sonic.
Yep. So enough about that. Let's get to that there move list. And he's in Smash, so it's easier to kind of come up with stuff.
Yeah.
You have your little spin dashes and all that kind of stuff. But you could definitely do stuff to expand on, because that's one thing people complain about with his moveset is you can kind of tell, because Sonic was kind of added at the last minute, and his moveset kind of reflects that. Yeah. Just because, everything's literally a spin dash.
Pretty much, yeah. He is kind of the same thing over and over again, yeah.
Just very little difference. So as far as the moveset, I had trouble trying to think, okay, what can you do? You can try to get all the stuff in there. You can have little side smashes that get his little sword from that night game, or may have a counter, may a reminiscent of Jack's level 2 in PlayStation, or we first the werehog.
Yeah.
And do all that kind of stuff. You got a lot of games to draw
all
from.
of it.
Final Smash, it's Supersonic. You can't change that.
But it's fine to have some normal ones.
But because it's this, we got to do a fun little gimmick to set it apart. Darby, something about Sonic that people love as a series, or hate, depending who you ask.
True.
Is Sonic and his friends. His friends are always there, and people either love it or hate it that they're there.
Yeah.
A lot of times hate.
Very true.
So naturally, I'm adding them to the moveset. We're going to have a buddy meter.
Hell yeah.
It goes up, and then once it gets full, at least for a move or so, some of their moves transform to a variation involving as friends. Like a forward smash would be Knuckles comes down and does a big punch instead of Sonic going forward.
Yeah.
Up B turns into a faster, more controllable, like Tails sending him up.
Nice.
Down smash might be Amy coming out with a hammer.
Right. Yeah.
Bunch of fun stuff.
That would be very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Shadow comes out with a freaking Glock.
Obviously. That's his regular beads to get a projectile in there.
Yeah, he comes up.
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Yep. That'd be cool to get everybody in the mix.
Yep.
In some way. Yeah. I think that is a very, very good. But I think Sonic is legitimately also, I think the Sega Genesis, like original Sonic or whatever, is the first game I ever remember playing too, because Jenny had one. Yeah. So oldie but goodie, classic. Well,
let's see who his rival is.
This is kind of fitting, because Sonic's rival today is gonna be the king. The king himself, King Boo.
Oh fuck!
He's in. We're bringing him in. I told you I had a very safe one, and then kind of a more like, let's just have fun. This is let's just have fun.
You know what, Darby? Unless I'm forgetting, we added someone. I did not expect King Boo, or maybe I should have, to be the second
Mario route.
Yeah.
Well, when you have me here, long live the king, buddy.
Yeah, and I think that's the second series behind Final Fantasy that got a second rep.
Yeah, Mario's down. So Mario and Final Fantasy, the two best game franchises of all time.
You heard it here first.
I mean, like you have this deep, passionate, like I grew up. This was my childhood. It got me into games. This is my first thing or whatever. I have no like logic, but I just like the big, big scary ghost boy with a big crown and his like weird smile. Like I don't like. It's all just a visceral like. I don't know. I just like him. There's no like deeper meaning behind it. I just always like I just like the Boo. Like there's something about like his little laugh and how he's like always fucking with everyone. And I always like the Boo mansion levels and like things I always just like really like because I think they play around with it.
Let us possess a Boo in Odyssey 2.
Seriously, yeah, let's do it. No, just more Boo, you know?
Yeah.
Which I should probably play Luigi's Mansion if I like that vibe. You know, I probably really need to play.
Yes.
Luigi's Mansion 3. So like, yeah, I don't know. He's just always like my go-to of the whenever they have the big Mario games with all the different characters or whatever. I just like him, and maybe I just have a thing for weird cartoon ghosts because there's also Pokemon. Like all my favorite Pokemon are like ghost types.
True.
I don't know. I just have a thing there. So I think he's cool.
So is Boo part of the reason you're kind of thinking about getting Mario Golf because he's there?
I mean, yeah, it's not like the only. It just looks fun, yeah. But I'm glad that King Boo is starting to be in like everything because it's just
though in Golf it's just regular Boo.
Yeah, or just regular Boo is fine too. Yeah. So moveset wise, I don't have a ton. I think the final smash is the thing I'm like most excited about, even though it's not the most fleshed out. But like, I think he would be like somewhat normal with like the things he does. I think you could use other boos coming out like out of him or whatever for some things. I was thinking some way of using like the ring of boos that come out for some attack, but I'm not sure exactly what you do. But one of the main things I would think for like the actual fighting, I want him to have like a meter or something, like a scare meter or something that he fills up. And like when that gets to the top, you can like stun. So I was either thinking you could like scare them and stun them, or like you could like mind manipulate them or something to like walk towards you and just set up for an attack or something like that. Yes, input.
No, I had an idea for the Ring of Boo thing. It's kind of like a down smash because everyone has those kind of area things where it kind of goes out. It's the thing of Boo's where it just kind of goes out. So the farther away you are, the more space you have to potentially not get hit. And then, And this makes more sense because their goes as well. They just kind of disappear after a certain range. Yeah, depending on how much you charged.
Yeah, if you charge it, maybe you could do like a small one, or you could do like a bigger ring if you like charge it down. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. So other than that, I just think like scare things. I would think if he's like kind of a weird, tricky technical character that can like manipulate people and do like things like that. Like I don't know, I like the idea of like a meter that you build up that when you do it, like maybe the person just like kind of like walks towards you because you're manipulating him. You can like set up a smash attack or something. Do that. It'd be cool. But the final smash, I want it to be like everyone gets transported into the mansion, into like Boo's mansion, and I want you to be like on the floor, like everyone's on the floor of the mansion, and then there's a bunch of different things that Boo can interact with like on a cooldown. So I want there to be like you're sending ghosts at them, you're doing like you play like another little game there, but like they don't know what you're gonna do when, and I want like the elements are all like randomized. So when it goes there's like if they walk too close to this mirror, it's gonna like flash and kill them or something. Or like the mind control rate. So I want like you're like Boo just kind of like fucking with them. Like I want some element of that. I think that would be really cool. And it's like they could escape it if they like dodge right, but you are obviously in a way big advantage there or something. So like you have like maybe like the face buttons. You have like 4 different interactable things that they're trying to avoid, and you're like just like King Boo fucking with them from above. Nice. I think that would be really cool. All right, that's my thing.
Didn't expect that character.
Yeah. We're having some fun with I'll get to more of the like expected.
Yeah.
Like,
I did have a thought. I'm going to put you on the
I
spot
care
here,
about.
Darby. We're talking about what to do for 200. We should obviously we should add characters to this, but be a couple characters for
Yeah.
each of us.
That's fine with
Do a
me.
little expansion pass.
Yeah, that's the only thing about doing the one character at a time. It makes me like, I was like, yeah, I mean, like doing the boring one, I'm like, yeah, but it's one character. It's like everyone knows this character's coming, but I'll definitely do that at some point.
I think that's part of the reason like Banjo hasn't got in, but I put Sonic in because Banjo's always right here, and because of Microsoft and stuff to talk about him more. Sonic doesn't come up as much, it feels like, weirdly enough. So it's like, okay, that's...
I mean, that's definitely like, I have Baba as you in here, which I mean, I have Baba from Baba as you, which I do love. He's like great in a completely different way.
I have Inside Boy, so
Yeah, I mean, which is also great in its own way. But King Boo is way more of a just a dumb like, like I don't know why I just like this character.
someone make this game for us, please.
So Sonic versus King Boo.
Yes.
So, the Sonic
At the
versus
Olympic
Mario
Games.
At the Olympic Games, this probably happened. So yeah, they're competing in the freaking long jump or something.
I think Boo has an unfair advantage.
Yeah,
there.
he kind of weighs nothing. Probably he weighs 0 pounds. So.
But they'll do it in that game. They'll have Boo jump.
they'll have Boo jump. They absolutely will.
No boy.
All right, Jeffrey. Well, this might be a longer podcast.
Yep.
Let's get into it. So what have we decided with this now? I'm sorry, I guess we didn't completely.
We can wait to the end to do it. Just kind of do it all at once if you want to.
Okay, so just FYI, Jeff has beat Nier Replicant. Insert numbers here. And he will talk about that at the end. I'll say even at the end, we'll start out the very, very, very beginning of it, spoiler free, for just like, does Jeff recommend this game or not? Like to the general public or whatever, to anyone listening to this. But then we'll go into spoilers. So if you want Nier talk and Nier spoiler talk, it'll be at the end, but we'll put it at the end so that you can bow out before the spoilers. But before that, I've actually played a new game this week. Not a lot of it. But I played a new game this week. And that new game is Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, baby.
Let's go.
I got it. I started playing like the I got like a very cheap DLC for
Risky Boots.
yeah, the Risky Boots thing for Half Genie Hero. And it was kind of kicking my ass, to be honest. I think like the DLC thing they maybe made a little harder or whatever. It's like I think I'm gonna go back to it. But I was like, I kind of just want to play like a new Shantae game or whatever. So I was like, I know like whatever Pirate's Curse is on there and people say it's great. It's like the older art style, which was maybe like slightly holding me back from like jumping right into it or whatever, because it's more of like the GBA type, like 8 like pixelated art style thing. But I was like, fuck it. I just wanted something that I could like lay in bed and play on the Switch, because like I've just been having that itch, because I don't know, I just love those games, and Seven Sirens was so much fun on my Switch last year. So I'm like, all right, screw it, I'm gonna get it. And I have played through I'm through the first little bit where I've unlocked the first few, I'm unlocking the first area, but I'm a decent ways into the first area, and it is a freaking delightful Shantae game. I'm like right back there with it. I was like, I don't know, is this really gonna hook me? But I was like, yeah, this is like I'm getting those same I can listen to a podcast while playing this game. It's very low.
Yeah,
stress.
and I have not played Pirate's Curse, so ask the question. This is immediately obvious. This is more of a Metroidvania compared to the other two.
Weirdly, so far it's kind of yes and no. So far it's I would say it's slightly less Metroidvania than Seven Sirens,
okay.
because there are different hubs. There's different where it's not just, so far at least, it's not just one big map. It is there's this area, and I did a lot of things there, but not everything. Obviously there was places I couldn't go, but then I went back out and it was okay, choose where to travel to next. So it was kind of a mix between Half Genie Hero and Seven Sirens, which obviously it predates both, but but to me that's what it felt like.
Okay,
which is cool, because I like both styles, and this seems at least from so far, a decently cool contrast between those.
Okay.
And I'll say one of the biggest things, I mean, the music is already phenomenal. Like, it might already be a little bit better than the other ones, even though the other ones are really good. But, like, some of these tracks already are really good. And, like, you started out in the same Scuttle Town, like, the area that you started in Half Genie Hero. But the very first area I went to was, like, a completely different looking area that I would think for Shantae. It was, like, a weird farm thing where there was, like, you were like in a cornfield and there was like scarecrows and stuff. And I'm like, this is Shantae? What? This is weird. So, but that's cool. It was like, okay, like that's like the setting actually looks like it varies more than the other ones. And I kind of like, I think obviously the Shantae story is always like kind of nothing, but in the best way. It's just like it pokes fun at itself. It's very lighthearted and everything. And then this one, it's like you and Risky Boots have like a uneasy alliance when you're like going after this other pirate lord that like took something from her. So like and the officers of the law is after you because you like fought this guy or whatever, but then he reported that you were attacking him. So they're threatening to cut Shantae's hair. So like they're yeah,
how dare they?
They're like, we're gonna disarm her, and it's like, but by disarming her,
look, it's
cutting her hair.
fabulous. How could you do that?
It's just literally, she's the only one of these motherfuckers that can stand up on their own. So.
I know, I love it.
It's great, yeah, it's very good. So like I'm already really liking that because like whenever you're going into the different hub worlds or whatever, you're like you're at the first person perspective of Shantae, and you're looking at Risky Boots like sitting at the front of the boat like looking bored or whatever while you're like picking your spot. It's like I like that she's in it more. It seems like that's gonna be, and you can go all the way around and see all the other places you're gonna be. So that makes me think, you're gonna be with Risky Boots the whole game, which is
cool,
fun. Yeah, I'm already really digging it, and I'm very interested to see if I like end up liking this one more than the other two, or like where it ends up falling. You know,
it's like what kind of, I guess. Obviously, there's transformation and the whole siren stuff. Like, I guess what are the gimmicks here? Is it still transformation?
Well, yeah, that's probably the one thing that maybe will probably hold it back because, like, so far I haven't gotten any sort of transformation. Okay. I've really only just had the hair whip and like items and everything. Okay. So it's probably gonna there's gonna be some gimmick. I haven't really gotten to like what it is exactly yet. So yeah, that will probably hold it back some because all the crazy transformations it probably has less than the other games as far as that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's gonna be something there. But like even the pixelated art style thing or whatever, the platforming still feels like similar to the other ones enough to where I just pick up and play it, you know.
Neat.
So yeah, it's real charming, real feel good game. All the characters like art, like the sprite art, like whenever they talk or whatever, looks very similar. That looks very modern, like drawn thing, like the original ones. It's just the sprites, but the sprites also look really really good. Like it's very pretty, just in a different way, you know. So yeah, I kind of have a feeling this will go the same way as the other games where it's like, I'll just pick at it here and there.
But this time next week, you're like, well, I finished mine first.
That's how it went with the other ones. So, yeah, we'll see. But
nice.
It's nice.
Shantae for Framemakers.
Yes.
I given up on Smash, so Framemakers will be more. I asked for Shantae.
Yeah.
They did a chance.
I agree. No, for sure. You should be.
Yes. Well, Darby, ready to move on?
I am, Jeffrey.
Alrighty. Yeah, gotta.
Oh, sorry. Jeff. Would you be so kind, Jeff, to present me and our listeners with a little news jingle?
Be my pleasure. Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Thank you so much, good sir.
You're welcome.
I've been really slacky on that. I'm sorry.
All right, Darby. We're starting with, well, at least to us, the biggest thing.
Oh, yeah, baby.
We got a Overwatch 2 stream. So now it's just 2 hours of PvP play. It's like, okay, what kind of nonsense are they going to do here? And they start with a big announcement. Overwatch 2 is going from 6v6 to 5v5.
Yeah, so yeah, I was expecting maps and characters that we'll never get in a long time. It'll be like, there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about. It's going to be like, yeah, they look cool, you know, whatever, Overwatch. didn't expect like literally the biggest change for Overwatch that has ever happened.
Yeah.
And it may ever happen in the future too. It's like, yeah, if you don't play Overwatch, you might not know how big of a deal it is, but that's a very, very, very big deal.
Yeah, so the way it's working, just as far as that goes, the way it works in competitive right now, or just in general, is 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 healers, or 2 supports. The way they make it 5 is they're removing a tank, so only 1 tank and 2 of the other
Correct.
classes.
Correct, which I think this is coming for many reasons. I think part of it is the actual way that it's going to change the way the game's played, which we will get into. But I also think a legitimate other reason is that tank is the least popular role. It is the least popular role as far as like people queuing for it, and it being like hard to get people to like go queue over there because they're queuing everywhere else. I do think that is part of it too. Like when they think about doing this and think about how to fix the problem of like the player distribution things, I still don't think this really helps the DPS thing, the problem as much, whatever.
Yeah, there's more players that might just get a DPS.
It might go more DPS, but I mean, that's Overwatch still definitely has many things that it has to figure out that are like issues. But this is something for me that like when I first heard this, I had to take some time to process it. Like I had some knee-jerk reactions, but like even then I was like, I don't want to say anything for sure because I just really haven't. I need to think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of in that place where like I feel like I need to play this before like I really can say anything concrete. But like me and you had a very good conversation when we were kind of slowly getting more and more into this idea as we watched the gameplays they were showing. And like I've kind of gotten to the point where I think this is probably actually the best direction for the game. Because in general, just right now, Overwatch with just the characters that they've released and like how kind of power creep has happened in that game, especially at the tank position, I think the game has just gotten like there's just way too much sustain, way too much clutter, like kind of team fights last way too long because everyone has healing being pumped into them and two big tanks with shields, or just even if they're not shields, it's like Roadhog. It takes the whole team shooting them to kill them, just health wise.
Unless I'm Roadhog.
Yeah, or me. Yeah, sure. That kind of thing. It just made it like even if you did something awesome on DPS, even if you got a kill, it's like, oh, the 2 tanks are still alive. It's like, it's still like this fight's still gonna be a slog, and you're still gonna be like barreling through, and it just started to feel too random or too just like 2 giant blobs.
Yeah, and even from that standpoint, for like the meta I don't play competitive, so as far as the overall meta, I only care about like what's happening in Overwatch League when we watch that. It feels like for the most part, when I see metas where pretty much the teams mirror each other, it's kind of based off tank stuff. Yeah. Like other characters are the 2 other classes are the same as well, but it's always based off what's going on with the tanks and what's the best thing there.
Yeah, I think Overwatch in general, what you play completely shifts around for what tank you're playing. Like what tanks are viable at that time when everything else kind of falls into place after that. And now, like, we'll talk about like there is a bummer side of this for sure, but I think overall, and especially after watching that, I think the visual, like watching those games, it was easier to tell what was going on. It just simply was. And I think mixed with the new map like philosophy that's going on with all these maps, all those new maps that they showed were so much more open and had so many more like paths, elevation, like that went up to like high ground all the way around. Because I think right now a lot of Overwatch maps, it just all comes to one place, and there's not many.
And a lot of the paths that are to the side. I mean, there are times when we played we played kind of recently, and I've put at least 100 hours in this game. I know not much you with most people, but still, that's a lot of time. Yeah. Like I don't think I've been here, or like I've only been here like in this one hallway I accidentally got to once or twice. So it's like a lot of these places where you kind of branch off, and the old maps seem mainly pointless. And again, we're just going off like 2 hours of gameplay and the players are from the Overwatch team or getting directions or something from the Overwatch team.
Right.
They're choosing to show this stuff, but it at least looked like more of the places matter. And yeah, they were more spread out. People kind of do more anything, and it's not like, okay, yeah, this actually makes sense to do.
Yeah, and it seemed like there are sometimes some places you can get to in Overwatch, but if you're not like a Pharah or something, it would take you so long to get there, it wouldn't matter. Or even if you get it, it's like they still, even the sight lines, you still came up to the same place. There was like a wall where the action was happening, and you could get up to here, the same place there, whatever, but you couldn't get to like over here and get them. In this map, like all the way around there was vision, so that combined with the fact that like, yeah, you can only have one character with a team blocking shield at a time. Like you can't have two things like that anymore. So I think there's going to be a lot more chances for you to get an angle on someone if you play really smart.
Yeah.
And pick someone off, and like you'll be rewarded more for finding a way.
And
around.
kind of go with that as far as like the fact that there will be the potential for one less shield. Not everyone runs two shields at all times, but they mentioned that this was a deliberate choice. There's more like cover area. They're more like cars or walls or something to where you can shoot and kind of be behind cover. So kind of going with that, there's more places where kind of like a tracer can kind of go off and kind of hide somewhere and do all this stuff.
And you're not necessarily completely relying on your tank to be your cover at all times. Like you could go off to the side, and even if you get called out, you could get behind this car. Yeah. Whereas now it's like if you go away from your Rhine and you get called out, you're dead. It's like you're screwed. So it's like, of course you're gonna glue to your tank. And I feel like in this it'll be a lot more viable for you to like go off on your own and do something and be more, just have the fight take place in more than one plane on the thing. And I think having less characters in general, I think helps with that, and specifically just having one tank, because I just think that in general kills will happen more, which is a good thing for this, and I think it's just going to make it more strategic. I feel like I don't know, but just from watching that, I'm starting to think that this might be more of a fix to the reasons why I've been unhappy with Overwatch than I thought it might be originally. Not saying that it will fix everything, and because there's been a lot of things like I can't even describe why, but like I've been very like bummed out with Overwatch recently, and like I can't like put my finger on it exactly. I think this is kind of like helping me identify some of the things that's like, oh no, this sounds nice, Yeah,
and at the very least, even if not like a total, fixing much stuff as you're thinking, it might be like a breath of fresh air in a way when this come out, because it instantly changes the meta.
Yeah.
So at least for a little bit, we'll have to see how we like it, like we've been saying, but matches will play out differently and all that, even besides the new map, just because, again, one less tank and one less character in general on both sides.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a very, very big change, like way bigger than even roll lock and stuff was, which was already huge. There is definitely like the added caveat that like I am not a tank player. I hate playing tank. It's the one role that I just never ever play, even off tank. I just hate it. I just don't like playing it in normal Overwatch. It's just not my play style.
Yeah.
So I will definitely I am sympathetic for the people who have enjoyed like tank duos and stuff like that, because that's going to be a thing of the past. That's going to be a relic of a Overwatch gone or whatever. And I think Alex and Olivia I did talk to Alex about it some. I would still in the future, I would be down to get Alex on here to share some thoughts, and maybe especially when we get more. And he definitely, I think he agrees that this is probably the better direction for the game overall. But that is an experience that was a fun experience for a lot of people that they just won't be able to have anymore, which is a bummer.
And also, kind of a bummer on a different note, someone who like me who mainly plays support, but I do play a decent amount of tank, get that in there. With this, Val is like when I play tank, I'll be the only one. That just adds a lot more pressure on to me, who I'm just not good.
I'm a miserable tank, and I agree with you. This makes me even way less likely.
It does make me want to maybe some more motivation to get particularly good with Rhine as a main tank, because I think that's the only main tank that I actually play a decent amount. That I feel like I'm more of a defensive Rhine, but I feel like I'm pretty decent at that, at least when we play casual stuff.
Yeah.
So more motivation to maybe get better at him at least.
Yeah, I do think it's like tank was already the most important role in any team, and I think this just makes that even more so the case.
Well, I guess maybe we should throw this in here for people who may not like Overwatch. You're gonna say we can throw out terms like main tank and off tank,
Yeah,
off
true.
tank, which it's going to be a big conversation where I think we should just go ahead and just transition into.
Yeah,
Yeah. The main tanks are, for people who don't know, are the simplest term, or just kind of the tanks that mainly just have shields. That's a big difference.
And they can take damage, take space, and everything. Like honestly, like me and Alex were talking about the off tank or whatever is almost more. It's like in League of Legends. The abilities that these off tank has, those are supports in League of Legends.
Yeah.
They're utility things or whatever. Like Zarya would be a support if like her thing was in League of Legends. So like yeah, you think of main tank as more of your traditional what you think generally in video games as a tank. Someone who is very like
bulky.
Shields people, takes damage, and just takes space because it's this big thing coming through. Off tanks are a lot more of like Zarya can shoot or grab and bring everyone together. It's like weird utility things like that.
Diva just kind of more of a just offensive weapon in general.
Yeah, she's
like
basically
she has a little shield thing, but
that's for her. I mean, it can eat ults. It can suck up ults to stop them. So she has utility there too. But that's the weird thing about Overwatch is you can't put any of these roles in a box at all too, because like Diva and Roadhog are basically just big DPSs. Sorry.
Even Wrecking Ball also in a way. I mean, he has his own shield, but that's not a.
He's kind of a weird mixture too.
So that's a general thing, and
so we probably didn't make that any easier for people, but it's not an easy concept to nail down.
Well, a big thing that at least we've talked about, I don't know if the community at large, how much they're talking about it, I guess you know more about that than me, is because there's only one tank, the potential death of the use of off tank, or at least significantly less, because main tank seems very important, and not having that may be a bad idea.
Yeah, I think that is 100% a concern. The more I think about it, the more I feel like there's a chance, just again with the design philosophy of the maps now, and just the way that like you're going to be forced to play different and forced to play more spread out. I feel, and the way you can get angles on people, I feel like off tanks might be a little more valuable than we think in a knee-jerk reaction, because I think if you play them right, like again, people can't hide behind Ryan and a Orisa shield, Ryan and Sigma or whatever. There's less things to hide, so that Ryan can only protect so many people, and especially if you get around them and start shooting, it's like the Ryan's not gonna be able to react fast enough to get everyone. So like, especially like on the competitive level, I think even if it dropped right now and there was no off-tank changes, I think some competitive teams with the 5v5 would be able to play off-tanks and make it work. And they're way more aggressive kill thing or whatever. I think they can make it work. But I think right now, if you just dropped this, like the off-tanks as they are now into 5v5, I think more casual people like us would die if they tried to play it off tank, and I think most of them will. Most of them would, that's kind of the problem now. If you let people play two off tanks and you just lose, it's like the decks are so stacked against you if you do that. And I think on the casual level, if they don't change the off tanks, that there's a very good chance of that happening again, where it's like he picked Roadhog, shit, we're screwed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm wondering. Me and you were both saying that we thought that because they're already showing off this 5v5 gameplay, and it seems like most of the off tanks and everything are not really changed at all, that made us think that those changes probably won't come by the beginning of Overwatch 2. But Alex did point out they've shown a lot of gameplay for Overwatch 2 before, and like Winston didn't have this new ability. And things like that, and like made it.
Well, what I was talking about then, I agree with that. What Alex is saying there, 100%. We were talking about because some people brought up the potential of moving an off tank to DPS. That's mainly what I was talking about.
Gotcha.
And when we saw a lot of the tanks in the gameplay yesterday in the 5v5, that makes me think, okay, we got no reason to see characters get moved there and tweaked for that. It's okay, yeah, they are going to be still tanks, and then we are going to still get some of those changes, like the Winston change, which we'll get to later.
True. Yeah. So that probably won't happen. But I do think like Alex brought out that like I think it would be cool for the game if we did have more of a like, or at least an option to have a healing support and a utility support. Like if Zarya was reworked and moved to support, I think that could actually be really cool if you had Mercy, Lucio, Baptiste, someone like healing a bunch, or Miura healing a bunch, but then you also had like a Zarya type thing that had the utility of like bringing everyone together, doing all that kind of stuff like that. I think that would be a more interesting version of the game, because I do think support also can get kind of boring sometimes when it's just heal bots for the, you know, everyone has to pump out healing or you're not going to be a good support. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen though.
Yeah.
I think the tanks will probably stay the tanks and be tweaked to try to fit into 5v5.
Yeah, I agree. Again, if they were going to do that, they probably would have announced it yesterday. And again, we saw most things. I think Sigma is like maybe one that like take anything in my head that maybe wasn't, at least the matches I saw, and he's not moving away from
No,
he's a tank all the way.
He's nothing else. Yeah, you could throw Roadhog over to DPS and it would be slightly weird, but not that weird. Yeah, no, Sig would stay. Yeah. So yes, very interesting
Indeed.
Well, you want to move into, we kind of talked about the maps. I mean, we talked about maps and the new mode, the push mode, because we saw more of it today this time we did. So yeah, the maps, there's Rio, New York, Monte Carlo, and Toronto.
Is that all about it? But I know that's some of the ones they mainly focused on and shit.
Yeah, and like I think just across the board, they all just like seem like they all legitimately instantly the best maps of the game. I mean, it seems like the map design has like leveled up a lot. And then yeah, what did you think about the push game mode?
I liked it. It took me a second to exactly comprehend what's going on, but once we saw I think 2 matches, I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, it'd be interested to see how it'll go when actually playing it, but it looked interesting and different enough, because I heard the push thing and kind of let them describe it, but until seeing it, I didn't understand exactly what it was. But now that I saw, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this.
Yeah,
there are a couple things I'm still unsure about, I think, in the way it works, but overall,
yeah, mostly like the spawn door things or whatever. Because basically the way it works is there's like a robot that starts in the center, and like if you kill the whole enemy team, so it's just your team on it, the robot starts pushing towards the end of your objective down this like path, and every time they come and fight, the robot stops, and if they beat you, they start pushing the other way. So it's at the end of the time, it's whoever has pushed the furthest in one of their ways, or if you get to the very end, you instantly win. And I think, I mean, a very key thing for Overwatch modes, because this is the first time they've ever released a new mode. Like they've had the same modes from launch of Overwatch 1.
And they've been dropping a mode.
And they are they're dropping 2 CP. But I think like the key and the brilliance of the Overwatch modes is they are very simple. It is like gain control of this point or push this thing or whatever, and it's just like it's a means to bring everyone together. And I think this is another really smart one, because it's very simple in concept. It's pretty easy to understand how it works. Yeah. And stuff like spawn, when you're playing the game, you'll instantly be like,
it's kind of one of those things right now. Like, I'm not sure how it works, but yeah, I mean, once we get into it.
When you play the game, you just run towards the big flashing thing and kill people. But this just feels like it takes control, which is mine and everyone else's favorite game mode, is the like take control of a point and flipping back and forth. It's like that, but more interesting, because you're not all just fighting in the one point the whole time. You're going to be fighting across this whole like spectrum, depending on where the robot is. And I think it has the potential for like really hype shit when they've pushed really far into your thing, the time's getting low or whatever, you gain control, you're marching back, it becomes overtime, and then you have to win every fight all the way there. And if you do it, that's gonna be like, like
just imagine this Overwatch Grand Finals, just the last one. Yeah, it's literally that. Someone gets it, and like at the very end, right before their point, and they just push it all the way back, all in overtime.
That would be so high. The casters are like losing their mind, like, oh my god.
I mean, that's the thing I was thinking about. Like, that like this mode definitely will create hype moments like that. Like, even some, like a lot of the mode, like all the other modes do that. This one, I feel like with just the way it works. It's craziness.
Yes, and because it's like just the kind of like tug of war, it's just gonna feel like this all out war. Because you have like payload, obviously, you can fight like the payload could get stopped at any point in this thing, so you do fight at different areas. But the fact that you'll be going back and forth, you'll be fighting here and then back over there, here, back over there, and like it seems like because you can push it back the other way, there'll be a very tangible. It's almost like Nidhogg.
Yeah.
In the like. We were all the way back there. Now we're all the way up here. You feel like you've accomplished something. It's like, yeah, really cool. I think it instantly seems like a very cool game mode.
And particularly for a strategy of it, since when time runs out, it's about who has pushed the farthest. So it might be some strategies where you don't necessarily have to win the fight, like continuously win fights. Just kind of part of it is prolong the fights long enough to where they run out of time.
Right.
Where they need to pretty much be perfect.
Yeah,
at the
you have
end.
to put the pressure on them there. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like the spawns will be very interesting because there is a certain point you get to a checkpoint and your spawn like moves up closer. So it'd be like, we really need to get there so we can come right back. You know, there's like even along the way, there's little objectives that like you really want to try to get to. So, and I think that would just be more interesting because it's a little less rigid than the other game modes where it's like these fights can happen anywhere because like you can get stopped and there's
it's kind of like also those checkpoint thing because just along the thing is just kind of like a visual representation of just progress. Like we're at the half-ish way, like 1/10 of the half-ish waypoint.
Yeah, and something that is not just in the push mode, but I think I noticed it most there. I think they're playing around. It seems like a very simple thing, especially if you didn't play Overwatch. But I think a lot of times in Overwatch, there's not a whole lot. Like there's some staircases to get the elevation, but there's not a whole lot of like them changing elevation for this. I like that some of these push, like you're really going through this whole corridor where like when you get to some person's side, you're like going up this winding road.
I think Monte Carlo was one that.
Yeah, I think
might be
so.
One that had ones like the race car. He has a really steep looking hill.
Yeah, and I think that's just it seems simple, but that's very interesting, and it gives the like there's different parts of the map that favor different sides, which is cool. It's like when you're getting towards the end of like scoring and like you're gonna win, it should be harder for you. And at that point, a lot of times the defenders they're like aiming down at you, so they have the high ground. So like I think that's cool because like the further you get, the harder it gets basically, and I think that's like kind of a cool dynamic for that. It has me excited. This is the most excited I've been very pessimistic. I know I have. I mean, and it is still a bummer that we still have to freaking wait a year before we get any new content. But
yes, I guess before we move on from Overwatch, we got a couple character changes. First, we mentioned Winston earlier. He has a focus lightning thing now.
Yeah.
Kind of nice little focus stream that, I think has a longer range. So we can get like... Yeah.
Get some range. I think especially in the one
some
tank.
Flying enemies and stuff like... Oh, no.
Especially in the one tank thing where you're as a tank player, you kind of feel like you have to be everywhere at once. I feel like that will help Winston a lot.
Yeah, and honestly, especially the one tank thing, in hindsight now, those Reinhardt changes make a lot more sense. So you be able to stop and having the two little hammer charge things.
Well, because now, especially when you're the only tank, you're not going to do the charge off the edge with someone thing if you don't have to. It's like, because like in modern Overwatch, it's like, okay, your team could probably carry without you. But, so, yeah, and these tanks need to have big mobility. I mean, they basically, in 5v5, the tanks probably need to be the strongest character in the game. Like maybe overbalanced from the other ones because there's only one of them and they have to carry the team. Like they're basically raid bosses. And I think like inherently, if they're balanced to be like very equal with the DPS, I think that playing tank is gonna suck. I think they need to be a little overtuned.
And I feel like based on the changes we got so far, that might be what they're doing because we've gotten a couple character changes. Winston and Ryan, I think we agree these are just inherently buffs. And Zarya, a tank as well, got a buff with the double bubble, which she can give out to herself or double up on herself, give it to herself and one ally, or give it to two different allies.
Right. And I think that is another good sign of that, like, they're not going to take Zarya away from being a tank. Instead, they're just giving her, like, she can buff herself up super fast and just be raid boss. These tanks are going to be raid bosses.
Yeah, going along with the philosophy of maybe buffing tanks and just reworking other ones. Some might be buffs, some not. I don't know. This is me as a casual. I'm thinking this is probably a nerf. her
Yeah.
primary fire doesn't freeze you anymore. It'll slow you down and it does more damage, but it does not freeze you, which, as someone who doesn't play May but has to deal for a lot,
Yeah.
how the fucking
No, thank
right?
Christ. Yeah, I don't actually play her. I mean, I mentioned, I was talking to Jeff before. I mean, yeah, she's a character that can, like, freeze people, snipe them with just like a one-hit KO thing on her,
Heal
her
herself.
head, heal herself, put up a, like, gigantic wall, and has a, like, super powerful AoE, ring AoE ult that hurts and freezes people. It's like, no, it's absurd how much this character has.
I mentioned to
It's
Darby,
take some
like,
shit away.
it seemed like she kind of became the top tier in on all teams kind of relatively more recently.
Yeah.
Like, the more you thought about her moves, so like, why hasn't this been the case the whole time?
Good question. Character's insane. So, like, yeah, I think that is more than fine. Even slowing people is still very strong.
Yeah. So, the very interesting changes that makes me excited to see how they're gonna fine tune some of the other older characters.
Yeah, I'm sure this is far from the end of these changes. So, yeah.
I imagine those characters probably get something. Maybe not. Like, I could see Echo not getting one because she's very new. But
Yeah, and I think some of them, like, I doubt Tracer's gonna get much change. I think she's pretty good. You know, it's like there's not, like, she's just a well-designed character. There's not much to change. There's not much it needs or whatever. But, like, someone like Mercy, I mean, I know I'm also a Mercy main, but she needs something else. She's missing. It feels like she's missing something, just especially compared to some of the newer characters. But, you know, I think I think there'll be a decent amount of characters that basically aren't touched. But I think we still are far from seeing the last, like, major changes.
you mentioned we got maybe like a year until this game comes out, so
All right.
they got plenty to announce.
Yeah, I'm wondering when the next time we'll hear from it is. Like, yeah, I mean, I could see it being all the way, like, fall, but
No.
yeah, we'll see.
Bummer.
Yeah. But good talk, Jeff.
Good talk indeed. You know what is not a bummer, Darby? Maybe, hopefully, Summer Games Fest.
Summer Game Mess.
Yep. I mean, that's never a bummer.
Nah.
This comes from Jay Peters from The Verge. Summer Game Fest is back this year, and it will start on June 10th with an event called Kickoff Live. That's billed as a spectacular world premiere showcase with more than a dozen world premieres and announcements. The show, which will begin at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, will be hosted by Jeff Keighley, who you might know also knows the host of the Game Awards. Kickoff Live is just the first of many events that will be part of Summer Game Fest. Some of the publishers confirmed to be participating in Summer Game Fest include 2K, Activision, Blizzard, Capcom, Epic Games, Sony PlayStation, Riot Games, Square Enix, Ubisoft, and Microsoft Xbox. The first event will also feature a performance by Weezer, who will debut a brand new stream-safe game soundtrack song that can be freely streamed on Twitch, YouTube, and anywhere else without being blocked or losing monetization, according to a press release. Huge.
It's all, like, electronic Vocaloid stuff because you can't say words.
Collaboration with Hatsune Miku.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, Darby, so finally got some Game Fest deets and finally another freaking conference announced besides Ubisoft Forward.
That's all you need, baby. Just Dance and Far Cry. What else you need?
Yeah, and we're getting really close. I'm like, okay, guys, you need to start announcing stuff.
Yeah,
I kind of want to just know at this point.
So what are your expectations from this? And, like, because I mean, I feel like sometimes Jeff Keighley's little, like, pre-show things are like they range in bigness. I feel like sometimes
It does. So I think some things important to note here that I saw Jeff say is, well, pretty much said to keep expectations in check because he kind of, in a way, downplayed this some and hyped up Gamescom and Game Awards as far as getting some of the bigger announcements.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what it's looking like, I guess, to him with his talks. And also, there will be... Spoiler, it's one of the bets we put in there. It's be a lot of games that have service stuff, so games that are out and getting updates. And you're like, Among Us is confirmed to be there.
Yeah, that's where my expectations are too. Like, I think there'll be some cool stuff there, and there might be one or two, like, really big things. But I mean, if you think about it and you look at some of these companies, a lot of these companies are gonna be at the like Microsoft thing too. So it's like that's where they're gonna put most of their effort is into like that's like the real like we're actually in E3. This is like the startup thing. So I think like I think this is gonna be a lot like of like deeper dives into things that only have like a little bit or something, and another thing, or like updated games that like Xbox said no to because it's not a new thing.
Yeah.
Or smaller companies, or like smaller games from these big companies. Like Capcom's there. I could see like a smaller Capcom game being shown off here.
Yeah,
and then
so-
Xbox is where they're like new Resident Evil or some shit, you know.
Yeah, big company, because he mentioned at the kickoff live, the list is longer than this. He said most, but not all the companies are going to be there. Yeah, kind of going with expectations. I can see Call of Duty probably being there, doing something with that. I can see Fall Guys also being there. It might be about time for them to announce something. I don't know, because I think
probably.
I think Mediatonic's on there and Epic Games is on there. I think they had them listed separately.
Even the Fortnite characters could be announced here. It also could be announced at Microsoft for sure, or both. Keighley gets Shrek. Nintendo gets Metro. Gets Samus.
I'm trying to think. Has Fortnite? When's the last time Fortnite had a significant announcement? I'm trying to think when Fortnite had an
Keighley?
announcement. No, not Keighley. I know Keighley, like a Microsoft thing.
I don't know. Yeah. I
know there's like Nintendo announcing it coming to Switch and stuff. That makes sense.
I know they've been Nintendo and Keighley stuff. I don't know. They probably have.
Yeah. But I think you're right about maybe not Microsoft. But I can see Fortnite being at Nintendo to announce Samus in there. Yeah, for sure.
That could be,
But yeah, I'm very curious. I swear to God, if Sony is just a launch trailer for Ratchet and Clank,
I mean, go ahead.
The reason I say swear to God because I know it's possible.
Yeah, I'm about to say like I would prepare for that to be a possibility. I'm not saying this for sure.
That's why I said it, because I know it's a possibility.
Because you know, like Keighley's gonna be like if he gets like a Ratchet and Clank launch trailer, then he said, all right, put PlayStation in the press release because it's technically true. If a lot more people will watch it if they see that. So it's like,
but I imagine that I can see the Sony thing also being because it's about the overall thing and something being part of Summer Game Fest is the announcement that the conference or showcase happening, and Jeff can just kind of put it on his website. Like, I guess got the okay to just put it on his website.
Yeah.
So I can see Sony not being here at all and just having their showcase at some point in time.
Okay, yeah. If Sony,
and that's why they're on the list.
I honestly, a Ratchet and Clank trailer is about what I would expect from this because I do think that Sony's going to have their own event sometime this summer. Yeah. So like, I don't think that this is like where you'll see Horizon 2 or something like that, or God of War. I really don't. I think Sony's going to want to do that at their own thing. You know.
I agree, especially if it's potentially happening close to like within a month of this thing.
Yeah. Which I think it won't be too long after. I still think it will be like pre-fall at least.
I can see Microsoft maybe for like maybe Psychonauts to Jeff's way, be like, okay, Jeff, yeah, you can have this.
Yeah, I could see that. Potentially, but also, I mean, they have a whole conference the next day, and that is a first party game. So, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll see with that. Yeah, I expect this thing to be mostly updates for existing games and smaller things.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say with like the Square and that kind of stuff and Capcom and all that. But like, well,
those are more wild cards for sure.
Yeah, it's like okay, we know Square said something about doing another showcase thing this summer, whatever they called it before, but we don't know when. We don't know. We know they're at E3. Doesn't mean they're doing a show, so they could have something meaningful.
Yeah,
at Jeff's thing.
Yeah, some of those definitely could have something more.
I will also throw this before you go into what you were about to say is I will be reacting to this because I know
what day in the week is this again?
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
I know as of right now I am off that day, so I'll react to it because why the hell not?
Hey, yeah.
I will not play Final Fantasy 7 for y'all.
Wow. Dedication.
That's the day that Yuffie comes
So
out.
it better be good, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. What are you about to say?
League of Legends Ruined King, please, because Riot Games is there. I want to see that.
Darby, it's happening.
I hope. I mean, they literally said early 2021, which, like I told Jeff, is a lie because we are currently, it's May 23rd.
I kind of jokingly say that, but not really, because it seems like this is just where they announced that League of Legends spin-off crap. Like, this is where they give updates to Jeff stuff.
I think they've been at Jeff's things at least twice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like,
I feel like that's where we got most of the updates for those things, so.
I would be a little shocked if we don't have an update because it's clearly been delayed and they just haven't said it or whatever. So I want to see. That's the one that, like, yeah, that's the single player. Like, it's a weird, like, mix. Like, the more I look at the trailer, it looks cool. It's like a mix between, like, a turn-based thing mixed with, like, an adventure game, like, walking around. Like, it looks like it's kind of a bunch of different games in one, but it looks cool. Especially now that I've, like, read some of the lore and everything. So it's like, I'm interested. The pie in the sky crazy thing would be the fighting game.
I want the fighting game.
I want to see the fighting game. I don't actually expect that to be here, but that would be the pie in the sky one.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I saw Blizzard on there. We're gonna get a 10-minute World of Warcraft trailer.
Yep.
Okay.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Dari, what I didn't expect to talk about on this there podcast this time last week was well, I'll just start the article. Discover Ryan McCaffrey from IGN. Developer Round 8 Studio and publisher NeoWiz have announced Lies of P, a Souls-like action RPG that is inspired by the story of Pinocchio. It doesn't have a release date or window just yet, but it'll release on PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC when it's done. The developer describes the game as having a unique lie system where what you do and say as the main character dynamically affects gameplay. NeoWiz offered a bit of insight on the announcement trailer, saying that it's narrated by someone other than the protagonist. That's all they hint at for now, and the events in the trailer serve as a prologue to the game's story.
Hey, you're talking about never thought we would say it. I have to imagine that's the first time the name Pinocchio has been said on the Nerds at Large Gaming podcast. I think I could probably say that for safety.
It could have come up in a Kingdom Hearts discussion.
Was he in Kingdom Hearts?
Kingdom Hearts 1, yeah.
Oh, shit.
I could have brought up Pinocchio.
He could. Okay. There's a chance. There's a chance. Yeah, so who had Soul's Pinocchio game on their bingo card? That's wild. That's very weird.
Yes.
But kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Like, it's very unexpected. I think I don't remember the Pinocchio story very well at all, but I just assume at this point any old Disney movie is based off of an original story that's probably really fucked up. It could be used as a horror thing.
Yeah.
So. And weird puppet master making a doll that comes to life, and like they're adding in like obviously weird futuristic shit because there was like a robot thing, and Pinocchio was fucking smoking a cigarette that had like a robot arm. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Which I think sometimes that like old children's story turned crazy, grim, dark. Sometimes it can be really bad, but sometimes it can be kind of cool, you know?
Yeah. Or at least interesting and funny to think about.
It feels like something that could be like you get into it because it's just so weird and funny, and you hear like Pinocchio Souls-like game, what? But then you actually play it and it's like, oh damn, this is actually really cool, you know?
Yeah.
It's wild.
And it'd be Souls-like game, the hardcore.
And the fact that they said like lying is gonna be important. So what does that look like? Gameplay mechanic wise, you know?
Yeah, so I guess this might potentially have more like I guess dialogue and stuff compared to a lot of the other
Like story choices and stuff might matter. Yeah.
And part of the reason I'm curious like how they do it to like make you want to lie other than just seeing what the fuck happens when you do lie because it's Pinocchio.
Yeah. Or maybe you don't really get a choice with that, but I don't know. I'm very interested. I mean, it does feel like nowadays if you're making a Souls game type game, you need to have a gimmick. You need to have something that sets you apart because it's become such a thing. Everyone is like, this is the Dark Souls of blah, blah, blah. So you kind of need something, but like that's at least knowing nothing else. Like you already have people are going to click on your trailers just because they're like, it's a what now?
Yeah.
What'd you say it was? It's like, so you got that with them. So like, it has potential for sure. Yeah, very very bizarre.
Indeed. All right, Darby. Time for everyone gets a TV show / movie. Though this is a weird one to do it for. but technically, but fuck it, we're
Is that true?
Yep. Injustice Gods Among Us, the popular fighting game based on the DC Comics franchise, whatever, is getting an animated movie. And weird thing is, this technically hasn't been officially announced. It was leaked because, or
It already has a movie. It's called The Game.
but in the Warner Brothers movie, some Batman movie that's coming out in July, one of the things they're highlighting is like, get a first look at the Injustice animated movie trailer in the actual like extra features on that DVD.
Weird.
DC does weird shit like that sometimes with their animated movies.
So you are obviously a way bigger DC fan, and you also like read the Injustice novel and everything.
Yes.
So where is your faith that this is like something that should be made or something? Like, do you think the storytelling in that makes you more excited about the potential for this, or like what are you?
It's like needing to be made. I don't know if I go necessarily that far, but
Or worth being made,
I
worth
think it
putting
can.
resources into.
Because about as much as any other video game thing being made into a different medium, that's like story heavy, like with Last of Us and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of the same, kind of the same idea of it, and they can do some stuff to change up the story. I'm very curious because it just says Injustice animated movie so far. So yeah, what does that mean? Is it going to be the actual story of the game, or is it going to adapt the comics that lead up into the game? Is it going to be a potential, because they've done this before, the anime movies, a multi-part thing where like a trilogy?
Yeah, everything's trilogies.
I just for trilogy, I think maybe 2 movies, because the Justice comics are pretty long, setting up to the actual game of Injustice.
Yeah, I mean,
into being the third one.
Do you feel like was the Injustice comic just a good comic, or was it like good for a video game adaptation comic? Like, is it something you would have just read, like if it was just dropped, like this was just Injustice was just a comic?
I particularly read it because I enjoyed the Justice story, I like that and stuff. But yeah, I think it's just a good
do you
comic.
think like generally this has potential over other DC stories? I mean, do you think this is like a
Yeah, honestly, like especially if they do the lead up to the game, it's not really different than doing like Flashpoint.
It's like a big team up thing, but it also has the like good and bad Superman, which I'm sure has also been done in a bunch of other things too.
Yeah, it's some people are actually just really tired of the point, and I understand it because it is being used as a crutch in a lot of more quote unquote mainstream Superman stories that aren't comics.
Yeah, that's my knee-jerk reaction is just I feel like this is going to end up just feeling very generic, because I think when you strip down the Injustice story that I played or whatever, at least, and like you're not like beating dudes up or whatever, I feel like at the end of the day it's going to feel like when you're just watching it, it's going to be like, yeah, that was a DC story. It's like that's because it brings everyone together because it's a fighting game and it needs to or whatever. But I feel like when you're watching in story, it's just gonna be like, it was a team up DC movie, and I don't know if it's gonna have like that extra thing that makes it super unique. But that's just me, who's only played the games, and I've forgotten a lot of it. So
yeah, I think people look at the whole, you could just watch the thing or just watch cutscenes. It's gonna be just that. Even if it's like it does do the games in adapting it, I mean, they can change stuff up because kind of like they gotta NetherRealm had to make concessions with the way they do the story to make sense why all these fights are happening. They can change stuff around to it being less fights, or sense. Some of the cooler fights that have to happen for the sake of the story will actually get an animated regular fight from them, other than just our bad combos.
What do you expect animation style? Like, do you think it'll be the more realistic? Because I mean, NetherRealm has a very realistic looking art style thing or whatever.
No, I don't think. I think they'll just. I mean, they kind of have different art styles for the DC animated movies, but I expect it to kind of be in line with that. I can't like point.
I hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I expect. I'd be kind of surprised if it wasn't. I can't point to a specific DC animated movie and be like, it's that art style, but you get the general idea what I mean.
I mean, like, I'm sure you kind of agree with me. There's just like anytime they try to do like the a video game thing, or like doing like a very realistic animation thing like that that's done in video games. It's like I can see the same animation when I'm playing a video game and be like, wow, this looks really good. But then I see that in a Netflix movie and I'm like, oh gosh, like, and I'm like, maybe that's dumb of me, but it's like, I guess I hold the gameplay thing to a less standard or whatever. Like, I feel like if they try to go for like, we're gonna try to replicate the Injustice art style, you're gonna get that freaking Resident Evil trailer we just saw that I think looks pretty bad. It's like the worst thing you could do is have me watch the trailer and be like, the game looks better. It's like that's not something you want for your Netflix show.
I'd be surprised if this was CG because as far as I can,
Yeah,
unless it's like a one-off, I don't know. It's all regular animated stuff.
That's good. Yeah.
So I'd be surprised if this is where they went off that train.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Darby. Got this next story. It's a sad one, but kind of heartwarming.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I'm unfortunately gonna butcher this guy. Thing is, I've only read it. But
Yeah.
This comes from Matt Team, came from IGN. Following the death of acclaimed manga author and Berserk creator Kentaro Miura, players in the Square Enix MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV paid tribute in a virtual visual. Miura is best known as the author and artist of manga Berserk, a seminal dark fantasy series critically acclaimed for its storytelling, art, and world building. Works that have been inspired by Berserk are numerous, including games like Dark Souls as well as Final Fantasy. One of the hallmarks of Berserk is an absurdly large sword carried by its hero Guts. Final Fantasy, plenty of characters wield similarly large weapons, including Cloud in Final Fantasy VII and the Dark Knight class in Final Fantasy XIV. And it's the latter who showed up to pay respect to Miura virtually. In the main city of Ulda, the line of players dressed in Dark Knight gear was so long that the MMO struggled to load properly.
That's crazy.
So it's kind of very quickly, like after the News of the Past came out, that line just formed.
People organized this. I mean,
and it was a nice, just right, not the whole claw, and it was just a straight line and
orderly thing. It's awesome to see people come together, and I feel like MMOs in general, it's like when I don't play them enough to know or whatever, but it just seems like when things like this happen, they happen so fast and that people no one's being a dick about it, everyone's just doing this. It just seems like there's very good wholesome communities and there, and that's awesome to see because very clearly, I mean, you can just look at some panels of Berserk and be like, oh yeah, this influenced so many things that we all play and and do everything. I mean, it's a pretty stark line you can draw.
There would, like they mentioned Dark Souls. There, I don't think they'd be a From Software without Berserk.
No. I mean, they're probably the original Dark Souls. You can look at it it's almost a Berserk game, and the way it plays seems like exactly what you would probably think.
Yep, enemies are kind of not literally, but they're just ripped out of Berserk.
Yeah, it's such a bummer that Berserk has been such a focus point, and it's been such an influential thing in so many mediums, but it'll probably never come to a and at least not in the way, not from the original creator, not in the original vision. That is a really big bummer, obviously.
Yep.
And it's definitely a legend in many, many ways. For all those.
Sad.
Very sad.
Yep. As a big Berserk fan, this one hurt.
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure you've been called up for a long time, right? I mean,
Can't remember when, but it's been a hot minute.
Yeah. That's sad. Very, very sad.
So maybe you can, since Darby doesn't really follow Berserk except for a little bit, we might watch the old anime on our anime show.
Yeah, we're kicking around how we're gonna do the next one. Probably watch a lot older anime. So yeah, that would be totally down for that.
All right, Darby. Naturally, we go from that to Outriders.
Of course, natural progression, natural flow of conversation.
No, Darby, I've seen different reads to this. I'm curious to get your take, if you have one. Square Enix has announced that Outriders surpassed 3.5 million unique players.
So, I think that is impressive for the amount of time that it's been.
Yes.
I also think that it's going to be about 3.5 million players this December.
So,
like, I think that I think it's about hit its end. And I think ultimately it's going to be looked at as a, like, mild success to mild failure.
yes.
Ultimately.
So here's the thing that's interesting. Square might disagree with that. They came out during their, I think it was their financial thing. They're potentially looking at Outriders as their next big franchise.
Weird, but
Yeah, and part of the reason, like, 3.5 million is a lot, but the reason that, the unique players important Game Pass was so there's, it's not sold. There are who knows how many people that just downloaded the game and tried it out. So I will say they mentioned, as far as those people go, those 3.5 million, the average play time was 31 hours.
that's very high.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, okay, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely for that like start, it like was definitely a much bigger start than I ever would have expected. And 3.5 million is still very impressive from what I expect. I just know that these companies a lot of times, but again, like they're not treating this like a games as a service.
Yeah,
you know,
I think people said they're done.
it seemed that's just what it like so much seemed like, and like the type of gameplay loop it had, and the people who enjoy it were enjoying it in the same way they enjoy a game of service game. It's like that wasn't completely unfounded. So I don't know. I don't want to say anything for sure because me and you were so freaking wrong about how this game would be received and sell at the beginning. So, when I say that this is going to be the end for it, who knows? Like as far as sales.
Yeah. It'd be very interesting. Darry, do you think, because based on what Square Enix said, I guess there'll be a sequel?
Yeah.
So they go into that, making it a game as a service? Whether it be because the dev team wants to, or Square's like, you guys are doing this.
Well, it's like, boy, people got really into this. We could have had that go on for so long.
Yeah.
But are they completely scared off of it because of Avengers? Avengers was such a colossal nightmare that like it might be like, no. See, I think Avengers is 100% why they were out here saying over and over again, Outriders is not a game of service, not a game of service. Like that was the line from Square Enix. Like they were going out of their way to try to disassociate with games of service, and I think that is 100% because of Avengers.
Yeah.
Like not that they changed the game philosophy, but I don't think they would be out there yelling in the streets like it's not a game of service.
And I hear
if
you.
it wasn't for that. Like, it's
that last thing you added, I think I get what you're saying, and I think I can agree with that. Yeah, I don't think they, like I said, change the philosophy. They're like, no, you got to cut the brakes. But yeah, as far as them proclaiming it, making it clear.
I think if it wasn't for that, it'd be like, sure, call it what you want as long as you're buying.
Yeah.
I think they're worried now that if people start saying it's game of service, people are gonna be like, ooh, I don't want it. It's like
Avengers is still a fascinating thing to me.
It's very fascinating. Well, it's like Outriders probably like Avengers probably sold way more than Outriders, but we'll probably look at Outriders as a success and Avengers as a failure just because that license. And like that's it's interesting.
Indeed.
Can't wait to forget about Outriders until like the sequel, and then also continue to forget about
Yes. There is time for other news.
other news.
Darby, have you, like many people, been waiting for Hollow Knight Silk Song?
I have, Jeff. Especially, well, I don't know if I can say I have because I haven't played the original, but sure.
That's exactly the reaction I wanted. Well, people like you are going to have
people
to wait.
like me? Who? Tell me.
Everyone.
Whoa!
I got to wait a little longer here about Hollow Knight Silk Song, apparently, because Team Cherry said it's not going to be at E3. Officially said it. But naturally, Warrior 64 made the joke of, so it's getting announced the day after.
We start, it never stops. The fucking Elden Ring Silk Song begging train never stops.
Yep.
I am surprised by that. Are you surprised by that?
My initial reaction was yes. And then it's one of those things I just forget / take for granted or whatever. This is a very small team.
Very
and
small
this
team.
was I understand it, but I think it's something people need to take a step back a little bit.
when talking about this game and when it's, how long it's been, is when it was announced, it was planned to be DLC. Like, it was promised DLC, and then they were like, okay, we got enough ideas here. Let's make it a full game.
Yeah, and they're obviously perfectionists over there. Like, I think they're going to want to release it.
Very small team. 6 people at most, I think it is at this point, maybe for them. I'm not sure exactly.
I think you're about right.
So I think that makes sense, at least as far as the announcement to when the game comes out, just because of the way it happened and with COVID and everything makes more sense. Because even if it is a small team, COVID affects every team at least somewhat.
Well, I have a feeling. I mean, not for it wasn't the original release, but everyone in the world considers the Switch release that's the first time they actually were paying attention to it. I could see them with Silk Song very easily seeing either a shadow drop or very close to it, being a look at all this stuff and it's coming out next month. That
is the impression.
I really could see that.
Yeah. People expecting when it was announced, oh yeah, it could do it there. I mean, people expected it to literally the very end of last year. People were kind of, this wasn't as big of a one, but as an example, thinking, oh, it could get shadow dropped at Game Awards. Yeah, because it technically was not pushed back yet.
And any of those, I mean, I'll give them credit. I mean, I thought the same thing. I thought that was a possibility at any of these as well. But that's the thing when it's a small team like this and it's a smaller style game, but it's also a best in class. It is legitimately it might be 2D, all that stuff or whatever, but it's very obvious that a lot of effort was put into it. It's those are probably the hardest games to predict when they're actually going to come out. Yeah. Way harder than the AAA games. You kind of know it's at least going to be 3 years or whatever.
And you were mentioning, I guess I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess they're perfectionists. When you have now suddenly the expectation of you being a game of the year, game of the generation, game of forever.
Hollow Knight, it would be very, very easy to underperform people's expectations, so their expectations are crazy. So you need to make something that's really, really freaking good.
So I can understand it taking time. I think that's one of those things. Yeah. Community in general needs to take back, situation by situation for sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but I'm not completely beside myself with it. I don't think it's egregious. It's I think the game will be phenomenal when it does come out.
But what'd be funny is they say this, but they're at Jeff Keighley Summer Game Fest and get shadow dropped.
I would respect it. I would kind of respect it.
No one would be mad about that.
Just completely bamboozle these nerds. Great.
Okay, Darby, a little Starfield update. We talked about it a good bit last week. Good conversation. If you didn't listen to it, go listen to it. It's a good one. But we got a little bit of an update. Now, literally every leaker and their mamas, they're talking about Starfield and its potential it coming out. Good news is, everyone, what everyone can agree on is it's going to be shown at E3.
Yeah.
What people couldn't agree on, but kind of agree more on as we go on, is when it's coming out, or at least planned to come out, because it's a big video game with COVID going on. Now the talk is, because of Jason Schreier, they're going to announce a window of late 2022, fall-ish. Because Jason said, kind of said straight up, they're planning on apparently putting a date on it.
Yeah. Yep. So the funny thing is, we are right back to what we probably all originally thought was realistic for Starfield. There's been all the it's been a roller coaster of oh shit, it's coming out in a few months, and it's now it's end of 2022. It's okay, yeah. If you had asked me, I would say probably around then. Yeah, if not later, but around.
Then, I don't disagree with you. But the big thing is, at the very least, that's different is, we're now going to be seeing it soon, and we're going to be surprised if we didn't. Yeah. I think we agreed before Jeff Grubb mentioned it. We didn't expect to see Starfield probably this year. Maybe at the Game Awards this year. Maybe.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, now it would be whoa.
Y'all, literally everyone.
Well, it would be y'all had this. I would turn to Jeff Grubb and Jason Schreier and be who the fuck are your sources? Because come on, if it didn't get shown now, it'd be Jesus. All right, we were way off.
Yeah.
Because there's just been way too much noise about it.
Yeah, I've seen too many different leakers I trust to varying. I've seen get stuff right. Say even if the release timing is a little different, but they all agree. Yeah, it's getting shown.
Yeah. I agree, and I still do. Just like last week, think a lot is writing off of that. But go listen to that.
Finally, big news to a lot of people. but not necessarily me and Darby. We apologize. A new Time Splitters has technically been announced. Deep Silver has put together a team with original founding members of the studio who used to work on it, but keep your expectations in check as far as timing, because it technically hasn't started yet, because they're still apparently building the building they're going to be making the game in. Is my
That's even worse than I was gonna say it's a Skate 4. That's worse.
Yeah, so it's going to be a while, but good news, people. Time Splitters is happening.
But you can split that time and cut from here to there by splitting the time. I don't know what happens in Time Splitters.
I don't know either.
I don't know what the game is.
Yep.
But you know what else I don't know?
What?
What the fuck is going on in Nier?
I'm not sure I know.
I walked by a lot of times and still don't know anymore.
Apparently got explained to it by Jacob.
I did. I still don't know.
Oh, you definitely won't understand what's going on in that ending EU. So yeah, before we get into the nitty gritty,
and let's just really quick here. Like, we'll tell you exactly when to cut out. I just want to, like, on the surface, now that you've beat the game and beat all the things or whatever, do you recommend this? Who do you recommend this to? Like,
yeah,
and I know that's a very complicated question.
That's a very complicated.
If anyone's
question.
listening to this, I would say, like, especially where I think most people are who are interested in this game are going to be people who played Automata and loved it, and now they're like, but I hear about Nier, I hear it's very different, it's weird. Like, do you recommend it to those people?
People who played Nier Automata and love Nier Automata, yes, absolutely, 100%. Going with the mindset that this is a game from the 360 era, and to some people seemed even kind of old at the time.
Yes.
Because I can see where that come from, even if this is an updated version. Some of that, it's weird to say something that's like 10-ish years old, but that old school design philosophy shines through and all that kind of stuff. You know, but it has all that weird Nier shit in spades, which is what you're usually going into these games for. And as far as comparison to Automata, again, before getting into the spoilers, I think I don't think it's I think I like Automata more still. I love both games, but
No.
I think Automata's overall the stronger game from overall story and all that kind of stuff. And I'll go into a little more, or at least the way it's done, I'll go into more details when we get to the spoiler section. But I will say what I think Replicant beats Automata is the strength of the main cast. I love like 2B and 9S and all of them, but I feel overall like Kane and Emil and even Nier and all that kind of stuff have stronger arcs and even better like connections as far as the way it was told and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Automata is a lot more isolated, right? You're just 2B most of the time, whereas it feels like this you're running around with Grimoire.
I mean, 9S is there for a good chunk of the game with you. Like, you're still there, but as far as like, I guess, character development, the actual characters, I feel like there's a stronger in Replicant, I think, at least the main cast. And I think the fact that there are generally more characters, I would say, kind of throughout with, even like with side characters, helps add to that for them to kind of play off of. There are characters in Automata who are also great, and if I had to rank Nier characters in general, there'll be some Automata characters that are close to the top, but yeah. I am just coming off Replicant, but yeah, as of right now, I think the main cast is stronger.
You think if you can just get past the fact that the gameplay is not going to be as like crazy and twitchy and flashy as Automata, but if you were into the Automata story, you think those people would still,
for people who have not played Nier Automata and were maybe looking at this game, because it is technically the first game, so you should be good to go in. I think as far as, it's fine going into there, playing Automata first, then Replicant. It was very interesting on some parts, and there's even some parts where they expect you to play Automata or before this. I mean, and I'll get into more into that, the spoilers, but I would suggest, because it's cheaper at the moment and on Game Pass, May try Automata, see if how that does for you before you shell out, at least right now, the money to play Replicant.
Yeah, like in general, and I've talked about this with Jacob too, and I'm not even like, this kind of sounds like an insult, but I really don't mean it to be. This was like less of a like remake, honestly, than I thought it was gonna be. But again, it's not really an insult. It's just that like it seems like they did more to preserve a lot of the original like vision of Nier for like what some people would consider better or worse or whatever. They like modernized it enough and brought it up to where like it was playable here and everything. But like I thought this was going to be like, they've stripped that out and they've dropped automata combat, automata like gameplay into this old story or whatever, and it's like they were going to be seen as kind of two different things, and there's going to be people that like prefer the original because of the changes they made. Like that's what I was envisioning for this, when in reality it seems like it's a way more of like, yeah, we're going to like bring this into the modern age, but it is that Nier, you know. Like, and like including the fact that like there was definitely some moments I saw of you, it's like, yeah, this seems like 2000s JRPG trappings. But all right, spoiler time. Make sure you don't care about Nier Replicant spoilers from this point onwards. We'll see you next week if you do.
Bye.
Now the cool kids, it's just the cool kids here.
Yeah.
It's kids they're obsessed with, like obsessed enough to go through all the endings, or people like me who just don't care.
Yeah.
But I do care about what you think. What do you think, Joe? Where do you fucking start?
I don't know where to start. I guess
I can't help you.
Yeah.
I know the world ends and you're an asshole or something, kind of.
Yeah. So I guess as far as the ending things, that's a big thing. We kind of been mentioning that. The fact that there are technically 5 endings, but a big difference between this and Automata as far as the endings go. Like as far as main endings, they're technically the same amount. A through E are the main ones for both games.
Main ones.
Yeah.
Automata had the full alphabet, right?
Yeah. I think something Automata has better is the fact that you're not replaying nearly as much. Like you do replay the first part of the story for Nier Automata when you play as 9S, but on here you technically play through a good chunk of the game 3 times. And if you don't know to save at a certain point, you could potentially do it a 4th time.
Which is absurd.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. Like the one big new part of the game is like completely missable if you.
Yeah, and just the fact to get ending C through E, you need to get every single weapon, and most of them are useless when you get them. And just take a lot of money, and you gotta do all the side, like a good chunk of the side quests that for the most part are fetch quests. Some are better than others for sure. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's a little, I'll be honest, from my perspective, it's, I mean, like, people would not be happy that I'd say this or whatever, but like, it makes me question the quality of your game a little bit when like you're talking about the like, yeah, but luckily I can just kind of like, you know, I'm power leveled so high that I can just kind of brainlessly go through this like playthrough or whatever to get to the end. Like that's like, so you're not really like, you don't want to play the game. You want to like, you know, because you're having to replay this thing and it's not interesting because you've already done it. So you're happy that you could just one hit kill everyone and just kind of like bullshit your way through. It's like, you know what I mean? Like that makes me feel like, so you're not really having a good time. You're just trying to do this to get to the end to like see the new thing. I'm like, that just seems like troublesome game design.
It's a weird thing. Like like it happened just really, like I really felt that way only really during C, the C route, because it didn't really have too many scenes. I'm curious to like look it up and see if I missed any additional scenes. For 2 characters, Devil and Popola, who end up betraying you and all that kind of stuff, you get like a couple scenes to see what they're doing behind this, like the scenes and their motivation stuff, but it's only like 2 or 3 pretty short ones, and you get an extra scene with Kaine, which was nice. But not really much there added to it. I will argue, I think Route B is done like there's a purpose to Route B, I think, going through the stuff again. There, you can argue, like, let's say this game was made today, that there was a more elegant way to do it.
Yeah. Again, you don't have to beat around the bush any. I mean, what was that thing? I mean, that was that you were getting the voices of the people you were fighting or something. You got like
so Route B had a lot of shit added onto it that I think add to it. You get additional scenes with the main bosses you are facing to kind of add to like, oh, they're not just mindless monsters. They are they are creatures that think, and kind of like one of the ones you kill, you're doing it for revenge because they killed the brother of a guy you met, or the blacksmith or whatever you're working for, and it's kind of a misunderstanding because the brother accidentally killed his brother.
Okay.
And he didn't know it. He just saw the robot in the shade there and thought it was them.
Okay, so you had like no awareness of this in the first playthrough.
No, and I'm just gonna call the main character Nier because I'm not gonna call him Jeff. That's weird.
I thought that his name was Nier later on when you were playing. Did you change his name?
Okay,
is that okay?
I'll get to that.
All right.
I'll get to that. So yeah, you do all this stuff, but Nier is never knowledgeable of any of this. Like, yeah, in this whole second playthrough, you are hearing what the shades are saying. I think there's a reason for that. But your main character doesn't understand a thing they are saying, so because it's literally just the same story as the first one. In the first playthrough, you're seeing everything from the view of the main kid, your main character. While in Route B, it opens up to where you're seeing kind of more of just a normal player thing, where you're seeing scenes you're not there for, like kind of in a meal by themselves doing some stuff and all that kind of from their point of view, and the enemy shades to like. No, they have reasons they're doing this, but yeah, again, besides them being mindless monsters, or they didn't really do anything, and you just killed a kid and his robot friend.
Great.
Because a twist is these shades are human. Like, pretty much, based on my understanding, I want to look at it more. All the people like Nier and Kaine and stuff, they're not human. Yeah, they're kind of more akin to the androids.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Nier Automata, they're not the same thing based on what I got off of it, but they're not real. The shades are the actual humans, and the whole whole thing is trying to get the shades into the shells, which are the people, and that's kind of the whole thing. When they kidnap Nier's sister, is the Shadow Lord is real Nier, and trying to get his body and get his Shadow Lord sister into Nier's sister's body.
Okay.
All that because in the beginning you're playing a boy. You're playing as Nier, and his sister's there in 2053, I think is the year they say. So kind of not too far in the distant future, relatively speaking, in an abandoned building and all that kind of stuff. And you're beating some shades and all that kind of stuff. I didn't realize until going through it a second time that he had that past Nier had the black book, while you had the white one,
the evil one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
He had Noir, I had Vice.
Yeah.
Best book.
So then, like, after you get to, like, so I kind of know generally everything you just said there, but, like, where does it get with the other crazier, wilder endings towards the end?
Yeah, well, I will say also part two that's really, like, the adds to it is you start out, the way the Route B and C and stuff, when you go load them up, start out is kind of turns to stone at some point, and you're pretty much freeing her. And you go through her memories about her backstory, which adds a lot to her stuff. And you learn about the shade in her body and the fact that she hears her voice, the shade's voice in her head at all times. So now during Route B, you hear his voice when he's actually talking to Kaine in the normal story. And I think that might be the reason you can hear the shades voices in Route B, as far as like a quote unquote story reason, because Kaine's with you pretty much at all times, and she can understand what they're saying. She actually talks back to them, and Nier's kind of like, Kaine, what's wrong?
Okay, interesting.
So I think Route B does add a lot to it as far as like characters and all that kind of stuff. C, not as much.
because I was skipping through those cutscenes
Yeah.
and getting through speed running through that shit. And then for Route D, all I had to do is load my Route C playthrough right before the final thing. Went through it again.
Okay.
Did all that. And it was very interesting as far as the their endings and routes and stuff, but they're the same story. They just technically end at different points or show something different at the end. Like Route A, you get the happy ending between Nier and his sisters, like yay, you're saved. B ends with the Shadow Lord pretty much going to heaven with his sister or equivalent of it.
Okay.
And C and D, you get a choice. C, kill Kaine because she's possessed by the shade to kind of free her from her thing. Or D, you can turn her back into a normal human, but you erase your existence, and they do the whole... now it's definitely Nier's known for deleting save files.
Yeah.
And you literally go through and delete everything from your start menu.
Wild.
Yep. So all that crazy nonsense. So, and then they added Route E for the Replicant version, which is fucking wild. It's one of those things where I got through it. It's like, it's crazy this wasn't here. This adds a lot to me. Though there's some people, and I'm curious to get your kind of, you didn't play it take once I'm done with it about it. Some people I read one article, and I can understand this point of view, where they had kind of problems with what it meant.
Okay.
So you start to do Route E, after all your save files have been deleted, you got to start a new game with a different name.
Okay.
So I just without thinking put in my name for my first playthrough, not knowing that was what the kid was going to be named. So for the second one, I was like, okay, I'll just put Nier in there.
Okay, so you did do that. Okay.
Yeah. Went through up to a certain point, and then Kaine wakes up after the events a part of Route D. So I go through the first couple hours of the game like normal, and then you just wake up as Kaine after the end of the game. So, after you delete your existence.
When she's a real human or whatever.
Yeah. And she's kind of in this dream.
So by a real human, does that mean the shade did go in her?
The shade's gone. Nier erases existence and it erased the shade and the...
So how does it make her a human? Like, she was an android, right?
Human.
Yeah.
Human to them.
Okay, but does anything change with her, or she just lives?
She just lives and doesn't have magical powers anymore, and not in constant pain and have a voice in her head.
Okay. Gotcha.
So she gets up, and you get to play as Kaine, which is a big thing I did not know about. That was exciting me. It's like, let's go.
Hidden behind so many walls.
Yes, and that's the significant change, at least as far as something added to this version of the game.
So what's the crazy thing that we need to talk about with the E?
Oh, with E? Or as far as what happens?
Yeah. Like what happens at the end
Yeah,
of it?
you play as her a little bit, whatever. You go to a magical tree that sends you on text adventures. And then you hear stuff's going on there, so you look, all the villagers have been killed. Robots are coming out of the tree. It's like, what's going on here? You go into the tree. It's all cybernetic and shit in there. You see these two android twins come out, and they, strangely enough, look like young versions of 2B and 9S from Automata.
There it is.
And they even have their voice actors.
Okay, well, yeah, there it is. There it is.
It's harder to tell for 2B, but 9S sounded not the same. It's like, okay, I think they even mentioned she was going to be in the game.
Yeah.
So you go through all that, and the whole point of her mission, she's going through it, and keep on talking about, like, she's a mission, she's like she's forgetting something because she forgot about Nier, because they did that. So she thought she just randomly saved this little girl when she did it for Nier, pretty much.
Okay.
Went through all that. Oh yeah, I didn't mention Emil sacrificed himself at some point. But after ending B, he gets plopped into the desert or just ahead, and he's just rolling around. But during Route E, he comes back, but with 4 arms. Because why not?
All right.
Because why the fuck not, Darby?
Okay.
Even kind of like, why the fuck do you have 4 arms? And Emil's like, long story.
Your guitar thought it looked cool.
Pretty much. For little gags and all that kind of stuff. So you go through it.
you go through the level, and then you at some point you go to this weird cube world, which is very reminiscent. I forget the name of it. Someplace in Automata. Go through that some more. Then you get to a virtual world, and they're like, "This is your memories." And as someone who's played Automata, it's like, yeah, this is what it's like for Automata when they go into like the cyberverse and all that stuff. The exact same thing. The health bar turns into like Automata's.
Okay, I knew there's some shit like this.
Yeah, so you're
Going into Replicant.
fighting digital versions of enemies you fought in the past and all that stuff. It's kind of having having some character growth, all that kind of stuff. She fights the thing that killed her grandmother again. Blah blah blah. Vice shows up and like, yeah, I'm gonna help you, you hussy. And you work together, defeat the thing. She gets the choice to, she brings back Nier and all that kind of stuff. Then at some point, at the end, a giant flower sprouts out of the ground, and Kaine's in the middle of it, embracing a naked young Nier. I don't know why he has to be young. I think it's technically the memory of him from when they first met.
And then that's just the end.
That is just the end. And they talk about everything for up to now is kind of for nothing, but who cares because we're with our loved ones kind of thing.
All right.
There's more shit in there, but
Interesting. Yeah, I know Jacob did say it was like the end, you like save your sister or whatever, but everyone's gonna die anyway. It doesn't matter. So it's like yeah, it was something like that. And like I think from what he says, like, yeah, Automata is supposed to be super far in the future when like everyone has died.
Pretty much, yeah. I think it's my understanding these people cannot technically reproduce or something. So yeah, those just kind of die off.
Right. Yeah. Like he said, like you basically lose at the end of the game. Like you're
That's where the androids come in. So I guess this game does make me want to replay Automata again to kind of get more of the connections and stuff, like understand like Emil and what he's kind of saying and going through, and Devil and Popola, who were a big part of the game. And there's just stuff like I kind of got what was going on, but not really. I would understand that stuff a lot more now.
But so you definitely probably need to read some articles. I'm sure there's people to explain how the games connect, because it sounds like you can easily play the two games separately and be fine or whatever, and not knowing any of the connection. But it sounds like there are big connections if you want to look for them like that, where it's like
what I just kind of said was kind of the short version of some crazy stuff. Also, I did try to read one article to make sure I got some gist of stuff for reading here. Apparently, with the flower and everything and some other things, it's supposed to be a heavy connection to Drakengard, which is the Yokotoro's old series, which technically Nier is kind of a spinoff of, to help connect Automata and Replicant to Drakengard 1 or 3, but also help connect Drakengard 1 and 3 by themselves or some shit.
I've never.
That's one of those things when Jacob and I do a Spoilercast, he's going to have to explain it all to me.
I've never heard that name in my life. Dragon, whatever.
I'm familiar with the basics of Drakengard, but I haven't played them.
Well, Jeff, I'm glad you had fun.
It's wild, man.
So you think all of it was worth it?
Yes.
Worthy of all the replays?
Yes. Like I said, I think B was more than worth it, because when I was going through the seat thing, especially, it kind of hammered home. Oh yeah, there were a lot of added scenes and context and all that kind of stuff that just really adds to the story, in my opinion. And especially, I do think there is something there to, and it's kind of a simple thing. It's a basic thing of, oh, we're actually the baddies, but it's kind of interesting the characters never kind of realize it themselves, kind of thing. And just kind of you going through like a generic RPG where it's like, oh, we're just fighting these generic mindless monsters, and then you go through it again doing the exact same things, knowing now this isn't the case.
Definitely seems like there's a commentary on video games, and like you just run into a room and start hacking away at whatever the first thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're technically killing a bunch of people. You literally slaughtered hundreds to save your sister.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. C, they probably could have reworked a little bit and not had to do the whole dumb weapons thing. There's actually no point of it. There's no story point to it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, that seems dumb.
Yeah.
That seems like something that they've probably improved, obviously, with Automata. At least the Automata endings at least seemed fun.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention, as far as the difference between Automata and Replicant is, besides the A and B route, because technically the endings of routes A through D for Replicant end roughly the same point, just slightly longer, potentially, or it's very slightly different, where Automata, slight spoilers for Automata, A and B end at the same point.
But then
To get to C and D, you got to go much farther in the story. They technically end at the same point, but it's kind of another choice scenario. But you play a whole bunch of different stuff. You're not replaying stuff.
yeah, right.
It's after the A and B, and then E is its own crazy bullshit.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad this E was its own crazy bullshit. I'm gonna read impressions because I just want to read more people think about this and maybe understand a little more what I just played. But here's to see if people are satisfied with the E thing.
Yeah. Like Jacob really liked it, even though he loves the original.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the thing I wanted to mention about E and D before we sign off. And again, all the stuff I'm saying, I'll have a lot more to say when I can get Jacob in here and we do a spoiler cast.
And I will bow out.
That is fair. While some people may not like D or ending E, or at least the way it ended, is because D, people found it was a very awesome thing, especially at the time where it just deleted your save file, doing that ultimate choice. Yeah. Where E kind of undid that and you get it back. It's kind of like, okay, so
yeah, I can see that. But
yeah, the big ultimate sacrifice you made, you can undo that at any time.
Yeah. I can
understand that.
I can see that too. Yeah. Because that is a pretty cool thing. It deletes everything. You're just sitting there at the title screen, like, well,
yeah,
that is interesting.
But I kind of like the E is way of getting a little, some more closure to Kaine's story and all that kind of stuff, and actually playing as her and all the crazy Automata related bullshit.
That is cool stuff.
Love it. I obviously love Nier. Now I can say I love Nier as a franchise instead of just the one
series, a franchise.
Yes. And all for whatever bullshit Yakutaro comes up next.
Yep.
Oh, I need to play Nier Reincarnation, the phone game, obviously.
Christ. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to Nerds Large Gaming Podcast. We will be back next week, and stay tuned for all of our E3 bullshit at twitch.tv/Nerds Large Gaming, and check out everything else at youtube.com/Nerds at Large. Until next time, deuce.
Bye.